Meanwhile, another suicide car bomb attack took place in Kandahar region of Afghanistan. 6 soldiers have been wounded, 11 civilians killed and 9 others have been taken to hospital. According to Afghan Ministry of Education, 12 madrasa students have been killed. The attack was targeted on NATO convoy. And now I'm joined by my colleague Danile Pagani on this story. Danile, a dastardly attack, a very sad day in Afghanistan. With Taliban has launched a spring offensive and 8 journalists died in the brutal bombing which took place in Kabul.
In fact, perhaps, Kartikeya, before we go into the details of this story, we might want to express a moment of grief and solidarity with the families of all those who have been cowardly killed in the capital city of Kabul and in the many attacks. It tells us once again how tough it is, especially for local journalists, to do their job in places very dangerous like Afghanistan and Kabul, where they rush to the scene of an attack shortly after the attack takes place. And unfortunately, now terrorists have come to know this kind of situation and they use this tactic of twin bombs. It's a twin bomb against the capital city, Kabul. This tells us that the Islamic State, which claims responsibility for this attack, intends to create an enormous atmosphere of fear before the elections in Afghanistan, which needs to take place in the presidential elections, which will take place in October. This is not a sectarian attack. This is an attack against Afghans and Afghanistan and the democratic process that will take place. As you correctly said, another suicide attack against madrasa students. We are talking about kids. 11 kids died in the southern province of Kandahar. This shows what Afghanistan has become now and what Afghanistan, unfortunately, needs to look ahead in the coming months.
But then, you see, the bottom line here is that, as you pointed out, that it tells us this, the sorry state of affairs in the city in context of the government has been unable to handle the Taliban infiltration. But tell me, is it correct to say that the fact that a part of the Afghanistan's government wants Taliban to be part of the reconciliation process and Americans not on the same page on it has created a position where rather than stabilizing, the bombings have increased all over Afghanistan?
It's very correct to say so. I say that the Afghan government is, of course, and smartly trying to get the Taliban to sit on the table, mostly for 3 reasons. The first reason is that it is impossible for them to win an overall battle and war all over Afghanistan because the Taliban have a presence or control at least 50% of the country. So you can imagine this is half of your country not under your control. So you need to talk to these people. The second is that Afghans want the Americans and all foreign troops to get out of Afghanistan, and that might be one of the possible negotiations that the Afghan president or whoever comes after him wants to have with the Taliban. And the third is that anyway, the Afghan government knows that the Taliban is not one single entity, they are several entities. So if negotiations start, perhaps slowly, brick by brick, they can build a stable agreement, at least for a ceasefire, at least during the elections, if they are willing to participate in the political process. Of course, the fact that the United States are not on the same page and repeatedly keep saying that they will win the war, that the Taliban stands no chance, doesn't help the Afghan government to start at the negotiating table.
And lastly, the spring has already started in Afghanistan and the attacks have increased. Despite the commitment of the United States to still have some sort of stabilizing forces, do you see that this summer is going to be far more violent than the previous one?
Yes, I think that this summer is going to be very violent. Elections will play an enormous role in this violence. I think that the Taliban know very well that somehow they have the upper hand in many situations. We have seen today that the capital city of Kabul, very close to the United States Embassy, witnessed a twin bombings. It means that despite the quantity of checkpoints and soldiers in the capital city, the quality of the security network is not holding up, is not resisting. Therefore, the Taliban know that they can infiltrate pretty easily and that they can, I would say, conduct successful attacks, of course, using the word successful from the point of view of the Taliban.
Thank you, Danile. Thank you for this update. Now, moving on in the bulletin.